13 Reasons Why, the TV series, is the greatest adaptation of a book into a movie or a TV show ever. Man, I've been on a reading kick. Okay, so here's the deal. So I'm writing a YA book right now. Man, it's really, really good. I can't wait. At some point, I have a feeling that's gonna be a thing. But I've been trying to read like other books that are popular. So I got If I Stay, I got The Fault in Our Stars, which I'm currently reading. That's my bookmark. And then I also read Looking for Alaska. These two are finished. If I Stay and Looking for Alaska. Fault in Our Stars, I'm currently reading. I'm going to make a video about this. I think I'm going to watch the movie as well because I haven't seen that. I'll do a little binge on that. And then also 13 Reasons Why. So I read this. Took me about like 2 days. I got a lot of feelings on this, man. Not what I was expecting at all because the TV series is so different. There is not anywhere close to 13 hours worth of material in this book. It's kind of formatted the same way where every chapter, every tape is a chapter and every episode is a chapter, so the format's the same. Clay's at the center, but that's pretty much where the similarities end. Obviously, if you haven't seen the show or read the book and you want to, don't watch this video because there's gonna be spoilers in here. But for everybody else, we got some stuff to talk about because there's a lot going on. For those of you who don't know, I did a series on 13 Reasons Why in my older videos. I did a episode by episode kind of breakdown. It was kind of comedic, kind of just like my thoughts on the series. But I got frustrated. It was more for a joke, but part of me was like, why, if you got tapes, why wouldn't you listen to them all in one night? The tapes come from a dead girl, a girl that you cared about. You'd want to listen to them all at one time, right? But I knew for the show, for the sake of the show, it had to be spread out. But in the book, he listens to all the tapes in one night. And I gotta say, Clay in the book, he doesn't even need to be here. There's no reason for Clay to be in this book at all. All he does the whole time is get the tapes, start listening, and then he just wanders around town. That's all he does. He goes to the park, to the playground, he goes to the coffee shop, to the diner, he gets driven around by Tony. He doesn't accomplish anything, and I think that's one problem I have with the book. Clay is just completely useless. And I actually think, I'm gonna save it actually for the end, but there's one way this book could have been 100 times more interesting. I just think that the book isn't long enough. We didn't get to explore some of the characters. That was a big thing that the show did so well, is the individual characters that are affected by Hannah's tapes. It's not just Clay. We never see a lot of the characters that are in this book in real time. We just hear about them through Hannah's voice. Courtney is fascinating to me in the show. In the show, she has 2 gay parents, and she's also a lesbian. That's not explored at all in the books. The reason that she does what she does to Hannah is because she wants to protect her family and her reputation. In the book, Courtney, all she does is spread a rumor about Hannah. She says that Hannah has a lot of sex toys. Just offhandedly at a party one time. And that's it. That's a reason to be on the tape? Like, at least in the show, you could see the impact that it had on Hannah's life. It was like a rumor that was really harmful. But this, she has sex toys. She said it to a couple guys. Courtney is just not nuanced at all, and there's no reason for why Courtney does what she does. She likes the idea that everybody likes her, and she wants to protect her reputation. That's why she pulls Hannah close a little bit. There's like an interesting character there, but we never crack the shell of Courtney, and we do it in this show, which is why I like the show better. Zach, he has no motivation in the book for stealing the notes of Hannah. It makes no sense for why he would do that. In the show, Hannah yells at him in the cafeteria in front of his friends, so she embarrasses him.
If you just gave me a chance.
Leave me alone!
His way of getting back is by stealing the notes. In the book, she doesn't do that. In the book, he comes over after Marcus gropes her, and she's crying and she's a wreck. She doesn't say a single word to Zach. Zach is like, I'm sorry for what happened. Walks away, and then he starts stealing the notes. There's no reason. There's no reason for why he does it. There were also some characters in here that just didn't need to be here at all. There was the coffee shop girl who apparently, I don't know, was kind of flirting with Clay a little bit. It just seemed like that whole scene was put into the book because there weren't enough interactions between Clay and actual people in this book. So they put in this coffee shop worker who was like, hey, we used to have a class together. And then she like laughs when Clay messes something up. But that's the extent of it, man. There's no building of a relationship there. Clay doesn't... That was the problem with this book. There was no interactions between Clay and everybody. We're just recounting what happened in the past, which I guess is kind of cool in its own right. But I feel like this book would have been so much better if it had been from Justin's perspective. Now, for the show, I like that it's from Clay's perspective because it's kind of like detective work. He wants to learn what's going on. There's a lot of secrets that need to be discovered. However, in the book, everything is just pretty much laid out as it is. There's no drama. There's no tension. However, if this had been from Justin's perspective, that would have been fascinating because he's the first tape, but he also has a later tape as well. And Hannah hints at there's going to be somebody on a later tape. And I think Justin, if we had been in Justin's perspective and he had known that there might have been another tape later on, we could have felt that anxiety. He could have been like listening to tape after tape after tape, seeing if he's on there again. But then also to be the first person that receives the tapes, he's the only person that knows about them besides Tony. So there's only 2 people that know about the existence of the tapes. So he could have tried to figure out a way to stop the tapes from going out, to try to get Tony to not like put the second set of tapes out. He could have had like a thing with Tony to try to like destroy the tapes. It felt like there was a story there that we never got to explore because Justin, he's the first person that gets the tapes, and the symbolic gesture of him sending those tapes out at the end is like him giving in to what the tapes are and to giving into Hannah's wishes, I guess. That would have been fascinating to me, man, but we never did that. We never even saw Justin in this book. We never saw Bryce. We never saw Justin. We never saw Courtney. We didn't see so many of these characters that we see in the show, obviously. And I think that frustrated me a little bit. It just felt like it's just Hannah. It's just Hannah's italics as she's talking in the tapes about what's going on. And then Clay, there'll be like a sentence, oh, I was in the principal's office that day. It doesn't add anything to the story. It just breaks up Hannah's monologues of her talking to the voice recorder. And I think that was my problem with this book. This book is alright. It's okay. Hannah's part is very, very interesting. However, if you have to choose between the show and the book, definitely watch the show. And I wouldn't say the book adds anything. Usually, and that's what's so fascinating about this, and that's why I say 13 Reasons Why the show is the greatest adaptation that I've ever seen, is because it adds so many things that the book doesn't have or doesn't hint at. Usually it's the other way around. Usually the show is cutting things from the book because it can't fit it all in. But instead it takes these ideas of characters and it actually builds them into people with that you can feel sorry for, you can feel sympathetic for. I can't feel sympathetic for Courtney in this because she doesn't have any motives. Zach doesn't have any motives. We never got Tyler's side. And even though his side isn't really all that valid, it's interesting to see how they thought. To at least get a general idea of where they're coming from. One of my favorite things from the show was the gathering, the group meetings of all the people that have heard the tapes. And it was like a meeting of supervillains. That's what I remember it as. They're all like trying to figure out how to stop this from getting out. And you could see the effect it had on other people, and also the effect that it had on Clay. You could kind of see it a little bit in the book. He talked about it hurt to breathe and stuff like that. But the actor that played it, Dylan Minot, I think that's how you pronounce it, he did a fantastic job. That had my heart wrenching as soon as he got to his tape. And he was like thinking he's the cause of Hannah's death. In the book, it's like over so fast, and I wasn't really emotionally moved. In the show, though, like, my God. And I also thought one thing that could have been explored a little bit more in the book through Clay's perspective of how Hannah saw herself and how Hannah saw the world. And I think that was really interesting what they did in the show was when Zach crumpled up the note and left it. Hannah thought she saw him do that, but he didn't do that. He still held on to the note. And there was an interesting point. As Zach's walking away, Hannah tried to confront him about stealing the notes, and he felt embarrassed, so he tried to run away. Hannah said, and as I stood there in the hallway, alone, trying to understand what had just happened and why, I realized the truth. I wasn't worth an explanation, not even a reaction. Not in your eyes, Zach. The reason he walked away wasn't because you weren't worth an explanation. It was because he was embarrassed, and what is he going to say? He feels ambushed, and obviously he knows what he's doing is wrong, so he wants to get out of there as soon as possible. Not because you're not worth an explanation. That's just how Hannah saw it. I think that's a fascinating idea between what actually happened and how Hannah viewed it. Like, the actions might be the same, but the ideas behind the actions. Like, she saw Zach as, like, oh, you're not worth an explanation, so I don't need to talk to you. But in Zach's head, he's actually thinking, I like you, I shouldn't have done this, oh crap, I need to get out of here. And I thought the worst part from Hannah's perspective, she walked by her old house. It turns out that the guy that hit Jeff, oh, by the way, Jeff's not in this book, which was a big oversight. I'll talk about that in a second here. But the guy that hit Jeff in the book, he lived in Hannah's old house. So Hannah happened to be walking by her old house one night, and he saw the man leave. And she said, 2 people, me and him, 1 house. Yet he drove away with no idea of his link to me, the girl on the sidewalk. And for some reason, at that moment, the air felt heavy, filled with loneliness. And that loneliness stayed with me through the rest of the night. Even the best moments, this is before the party. This is before the party where the assault happens, the rape on Jessica, not on her, and also the kiss with Clay. Even the best moments of that night were affected by that one incident, by that non-incident in front of my old house. His lack of interest in me was a reminder. Even though I had a history with that house, it didn't matter. His lack of interest was a reminder. Bitch, he doesn't know you. Obviously, he doesn't have an interest in you. You are a stranger to him. I made it pretty clear that a lot of what Hannah did and said in the show, I understand a lot of it, but I didn't like it because I thought it was her making mistakes. I think Hannah made a ton of mistakes, and I think that her suicide was a revenge, and she wanted to get back at the people that she felt wronged her. I think that's the reason she made the tapes, and I think she wanted to justify her own actions. But it was that right there that I realized I don't like her at all. She feels like she's owed, like everybody should know her. Like complete strangers having no interest in her offends her. And then the final point that I want to make is the book, there's no Jeff. That's the reason why the book's not as good as the show. No, I'm just kidding, man. I love Jeff. Everyone loves Jeff in the show. He meets a tragic end. He's such a good guy. He helps Clay out. He could have easily been in the book, man. I really feel like he could have been incorporated. But I feel like they added his character to add more emotional impact to when Clay gets to the scene of the accident. Instead, it's just some nameless kid from his school who was delivering pizzas. I didn't plan on making a video about reading the book. I just brought everything fresh again, and I wanted to talk about it. Maybe you guys will find some of it interesting. I'd like to hear your opinion. If you guys have read the book, what do you guys think about it? I personally think that if it had taken place from Justin's perspective, it would have had a lot more edge to it because he's the first one with the tapes, and it would have been a struggle for him. Do I pass the tapes on? Only one other person knows about the tapes. Is there a way that I can eliminate Tony's tapes or Tony? Plus the anxiety of, am I on one of the later tapes? Oh my god, I have a second tape. All that stuff would have been so much more interesting if we had been in Justin's head rather than Clay, who Hannah admits you didn't do anything wrong. Oh, actually, one final thing. Clay does something in this book. He meets up with Sky, who's like in the show, she's a mixture of 2 characters in the book. But Sky was a girl that Clay used to know a little bit, and she kind of irritated Clay because he didn't understand her, and she didn't want to be understood, it seemed like. She had one scene where they meet on a bus, very short scene, and at the end, he feels like compelled to really help her, which it felt weird. Felt like she should have been in the book far more for her, for that the whole thing to pay off. But Clay actually at the end sees some of the signs that she might be suicidal. She's pulling away, you know, she changes her appearance, so he wants to help her, so he reaches back out. I thought that was a cool way to end the book. It ends with him saying her name, chasing her down the hallway. That was cool. And then actually also Tony. Tony in the book could have been a lot better. The reason why he's helping Hannah was better in the show than it was here. Here he just assumes that he's got to help her out. They're not really friends, but he just gave her the tape recorder. And also, it was pretty obvious that Hannah was going to commit suicide. She was giving away her possessions to Tony. So it should have been pretty obvious to Tony. But what actually happened in the show with him ignoring Hannah that day that she dropped the tapes off because she was a lot to handle, that's so much more fascinating than actually what happened in the book. But like I said, the book's not bad at all. If you were interested in the show, I mean, maybe it's a good companion piece, but it's very, very different. The characters aren't expanded upon as much as they are in the show, so there's a lot left out in the book. Usually it's the other way around, but not here. That's gonna wrap it up. Again, I'm gonna do another video on The Fault in Our Stars. I'm about a third of the way through. And then once I finish this, I'm going to watch the movie. And then I'll also make a video about that. If you guys want to watch here's the first video of 13 Reasons Why. There's a whole series. I do 13 episodes plus one wrap-up episode. So that should keep you entertained for hours if you feel like going back and watching those. And then there's an extra video down there. As always, I love you guys. Have a great rest of your day.